Oh, I forgot this is a 5-round fight. Nassourdine normally gasses out in the second round.
That's my only concern, man.
I don't think Kelvin gonna capitalize. He's gonna do less than the fourth and fifth round.
So now we get down to Raoni Barcelos versus Umar Nurmagomedov. The last time we saw Umar was last June. I think that between him healing up from an injury and not being able to get fights, we're just not seeing him again, more than 6, about 7 months since his last appearance, man, where he just completely manhandled Nathan Maness, man, for 3 rounds. And I
think the first thing that stands out when I think about Umar is when he fought against Sergey
Morozov.
When he fought against Sergey Morozov, Sergey was actually able to stuff some takedowns.
Yes.
And he was able to put Umar in bad.
Hey, Saeed Yakub was able to stuff him in the beginning too, low key.
Yeah, obviously Sergey don't have the highest fight IQ. He found a way to lose that fight. But the thing is, if Raoni Barcelos can stuff takedowns and keep the fight standing up.
Yeah, but you got to realize Barcelos' most recent win came against Trevin Jones, and before that he was on a 2-fight losing skid.
Victor Henry, that dude right now, man. All that volume and cardio. I think, let me see.
And then Timur.
See, I can't understand that one. I can't defend that
one.
But
Timur, his most recent losses, the first one was 2016 against Chris Gutierrez, split decision. That aged very well. And then the most recent one was last year against Jack Shore. So he actually lost to 2 good people.
Victor against Raoni Barcelos threw 352 significant strikes against Barcelos. The thing is, we can't really hold that fight against him like that because that was just a crazy performance and output that a lot of fighters can't really stop.
Yeah, you can't. Most people can't do that.
Yeah.
But for this fight, man, people probably thinking about Saeed Nurmagomedov, but
he won off takedowns. You're not gonna be able to take down Umar.
But Raoni does have a wrestling background. I think he was the national Brazilian team.
I'm saying his game plan can be to try to out-wrestle Umar, though.
I think it's probably going to be trying to maybe take his back.
Oh, yeah, he can definitely do that.
And if you take the back, I don't know, man. I'm going to have to pick Umar just because it would be crazy not to pick him right now. Could there be a chance for an upset? Or maybe it was just like a lightning in a bottle type situation with Saeed? Because Saeed Nurmagomedov has way more holes in his game. You know. He has way more holes in his game, and people don't realize that Umar and Saeed are not related, and they are not the same person, and they do not fight the same way. So just because you beat Saeed Nurmagomedov does not mean you can beat Umar Nurmagomedov.
He submitted Chris Gutierrez.
Who?
Raoni. Interesting. I didn't know they fought.
Wait.
That's a good win he has. Because that's one thing I was saying. That's one knock he had. He really ain't beat nobody.
Yeah, but Chris Gutierrez didn't have no ground game like that. Like even now he want to keep the fight standing up. So it's a good win. Don't get me wrong, but it's But man, when it comes down to it, man, Umar finna go on this round, bro.
You want to tell you what the issue is? Raoni's so inconsistent.
Yes,
it's different versions of him, man. It depends on which Raoni shows
up. Look, I think it'll be competitive for a while. I think that he might stuff the first few, but the difference is Umar, man, he's not Khabib either. He throwing kicks. He fighting real safe because he fight kind of like from a distance. Like when it comes to throwing strikes from a close distance, he's definitely going to start wrestling you because he's not about to risk the Islam Makhachev and what's the dude that knocked him out? You know that was a fluke because we don't even remember the dude's name.
Probably not in the UFC no more.
Adriano Martin.
Oh, dang.
What's his name?
Yeah, Adriano Martin. Oh, he was a dude though.
For a minute. But yeah, Umar not about to let the Islam and Adriano Martin, he not about to let that happen to him.
Hey, I was looking at Umar Nurmagomedov on UFCstats.com and I was trying to see what his takedown defense was. And it's 0%. I think because only like one person attempted to take down, he probably got it.
Yeah.
It's probably a small sample size. But one thing that stands out is Umar's striking defense is 85%.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, what in the world? Who's going to, like, there's nothing that Raoni can do. That's unheard of.
It's over. I'm picking Umar by...
You got to be decision.
Because you're not just going to submit Raoni.
Yeah, you don't want to just keep...
And if Nathan Maness could survive for 3 rounds, and like he got a good ground game for a certain level, but as far as at this level, like you can't put him in there with like a Ricky Simone or like a nobody like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As far as on the ground. So if Nathan Maness can survive for 15 minutes, Raoni definitely can. Now that also creates more opportunities for if Raoni is not scared of the takedowns. Like if the takedowns don't break his confidence, Does that make sense? And if he's able to stand up and start getting things going,
guess what his takedown defense is?
What?
Guess what his takedown defense
Raoni?
is? Yeah, 93%. This fight is weird. Honestly, this might be an upset, man. Like I tell people, man, like dude, like stay away from this one.
Yeah, you was talking about.
Because Raoni is just. It depends. Like he has the potential to be a champion. He's inconsistent. But it's like that 93% takedown defense, man. Nah, man. I can see him stuffing takedowns, just outpointing them.
But then, what is he gonna do then?
Now,
leg kicks.
What he do to everybody else? He uses his hands and uses striking. He real technical. Like he just jab, 1-2 leg kicks and just mix it up on it. Umar, I can see him doing that. But also I can see him winning against Umar for 3 rounds and them still giving Umar that 3-round decision too.
The split decision.
And the split majority.
Yeah, low confidence Umar. Yeah. Just because it's really high confidence Umar. It's just the fact that Raoni, you never know what you get.
Depending on what side of the bed you wake up on.
Yeah, that determines everything. The next fight is going to be Ketlen Vierira versus Raquel Pennington. I'm not even going to hold you. I'm just flat out calling it. For some reason, they like giving Ketlen these real close fights. But one thing I would say is, if I look at her last 2 losses against Yana and Irene did her filthy. You remember that?
Oh yeah,
that knockout. That was like,
the left hook. But Irene did that to everybody. So I mean,
ooh.
I think Joe Rogan said it. She's frustrating Ketlen, and then I think Ketlen got frustrated, and I think she kind of
that's what they said during the fight. Yeah. So, but Raquel don't fight like that, man. So I was just kind of looking at her last 2 losses, and Raquel she's tough. Wait a minute. Oh, and she did take that fight against Aspinall on short notice, remember? On like 2 weeks notice, and then she ended up winning. But the thing is, she actually winning fights.
Yeah, she on a 4-fight win streak. But like a lot of her fights are real close.
I know. For some reason, she doesn't seem to have a particular area of her game that makes her really dangerous and a threat. Like, you don't necessarily have to be worried about getting knocked out. Yeah, she submitted Macy Chiazon, but at the same time,
of all people, she submitted Macy. That was
her first finish since.
But she submitted somebody that's tough though.
That was her first finish since 2015. So
the thing is,
can't really hold that like it's a common, normal thing to happen in a fight.
You know something wrong when Raquel's her biggest quality is her toughness and her durability.
And I'm gonna just have to go with Ketlen, man, just because I don't know if Rocky trying to make another run for the title or what. But Kelvin, they done gave her Miesha Tate. They done gave her Holly Holm.
But a lot of those fights she didn't win though.
Low key, I don't think she won either one. Nah, she beat Miesha.
Kelvin, I think she's a master. She's almost like Frankie Edgar. She's a master of looking like she's doing more than what she's really doing.
Well, one thing she like to do is she'll throw a few punches and then press you up against that cage. And then it's kind of like they just score for that stuff,
I seen one of her fights and she was just throwing jabs and she was throwing the punches, but she wasn't really committing to anything. It's almost like, what are you doing? You're not really doing nothing. It's like,
hey, does this fight have title implications?
Yes, it does, because after Raquel's last fight, she called out Sarah. I don't know who Sarah is, but she said, I want to fight Sarah for a #1 contender fight.
Sarah.
I don't know if she's talking about Sarah McMahon or I don't know, but obviously they gave it for Ketlen, so I guess.
So this must mean something, but when I look at these names, Miesha, Holly, it's only a few more names that's going to be above that. I think she's going to be fighting high-level fights here pretty soon.
I think the difference is Ketlen, she gets these favorable decisions, and Raquel, she typically loses these fights by decision, which a lot of people thought that she won. If you think about it, if this fight goes 3 rounds and it's close, it seems like Ketlen's going to get the decision because she has a history of doing that.
And then Raquel has a history of, up until this win streak, she had a history of like losing the closer type of fights. She lost to a lot of bigger names that they kind of maybe screwed her over a little bit. But
I'm not really a big fan of Kelvin.
Yeah, like Holly, remember Jessica Andrade, Holly Holm. Yeah. But, Raquel's very durable, man. She only been knocked out 1 time. She only been submitted 1 time. The thing is, she only got 1 knockout win and 4 submission wins, but you got 14 overall wins. So it's like...
She has that neutralizing style where she's able to like clinch fighters up and kind of control them. I think Kellen's so strong, man. Like, you ain't going to be able to clinch up like that controller.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Ketlen.
Yeah,
by 29-28 decision. I know Rocky going to get one of them, but...
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ketlen, too.
We got Punahele, Storytime, Soriano versus Roman Kopylov. The last time we saw Kopylov, he got a knockout out of nowhere against Alessio Decarico. Is that how you say his name?
Italian, yeah, I think so.
I'm going to say against Alessio.
Yeah.
And
it was surprising too. I thought Alessio was gonna come back and win, but he was kind of piecing Alessio up too. So I mean,
yeah, it seems like when you go back and look at his previous fights, Roman's previous fights, it's the volume and it's the combinations. And then look at this. Look at before he got to the UFC. He won 2 fights in a row in the 4th round by corner stoppage and punch to the body. It seems like he's kind of like a slow starter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then it's like his striking gets better over time. Like he started finding his gates to like kind of get you and touch you up or whatever. But these are 3-round fights. So a lot of times we see he's not been able to get going fast enough. One thing that's concerning is to get submitted by Carl Roberson in the 3rd round. First of all, to get beat by Carl Roberson and then in the 3rd round, that's crazy. But to be fair, a loss to Albert Duraev by decision, that's nothing to be ashamed of. Because we know how that happened. So he was able to shake back at UFC Paris against Alessio, and it wasn't easy, man. It took some time, but then he got it. Now, Punahele is kind of like
we talking about
the opposite. Like
we said, Roman was a slow starter. A lot of times, Punahele is a slow starter too. If you think about it, because sometimes it take him some time just to kind of get his.
I think it depends on. You got to realize with Dalcha, he had to be very careful. With against Nick Maximov, I don't even think he lost that fight.
He argued undefeated.
And Brendan Allen, that's just a lot. That's a lot to take on in your 2nd UFC fight. Well, no, your 3rd UFC
fight. He
arguably
won both of those fights. That's what's so weird.
Yeah, I think he was injured. Didn't something happen to his knee or something in one of those fights? But I still think he won.
I just don't think Roman had the style to beat Punahele. Because if you look at the people who beat him, they're wrestlers.
Hey, the one thing that's true, or they use wrestling to beat him. But both of these guys are left-handed. But Roman, it takes him a little bit of time, and then he kind of got to get his confidence up. But Punahele is looking for that one hitter quitter. And sometimes, like we saw against Dalcha, when that left hand wasn't landing the way he wanted to in the 1st round, because he had to be worried because Dalcha was hitting him with some big kicks. Remember, kicks to the body, kicks to the leg, the hands were still dangerous. But then Punahele came out in the 2nd round, doubled up on the jab, and started switching it up, and then was able to catch him. Now,
but Dalcha, he don't have the highest fight IQ.
Yeah, I know, but it's just good to see that Punahele was able to make a read and make an adjustment on his own, and just say, you know what, instead of just letting me throw the left hand, because that's my one knock on Punahele. I like him as a fighter, but my only thing is people know you're looking for the left hand, and you're leading with your knockout punch. You're not hiding it behind no type of jab or nothing. You just throwing it. Bro, they're going to see it coming. And even Roman, like if Punahele fights like that, Roman is going to win this fight. Because Roman going to be in and out, lateral movement. He's going to be hiding behind his jab like the way he's supposed to. It may take him a while to get going, but he's going to see the left hand coming. But if Punahele can like mix it up the way he's supposed to, he should win this fight. Has Roman ever been knocked out?
No, I was just looking at that too. And also, I think Roman can learn from Dalcha.
Yeah, because Dalcha did start off doing really good.
I told him with the leg kicks and the body kicks.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, can you do that for 3 rounds? I think there's different levels to this. I think Punahele is a tier above Roman. I don't think Roman has shown yet that he's in the same level as these guys.
And it would have to be this fight for him to show us that before we kind of look at him differently. I kind of got to keep you in this category until you show me otherwise, so I got to pick Punahele.
Yeah, then you getting submitted by Carl Roberson, man. That's going to be
that's tough,
asterisk.
Man. Another thing about Punahele, you know, he can wrestle, but he kind of has this one-track mind, I got to get the knockout. And it's like, man, when you get to the UFC, sometimes you got to get people down and just take their back and submit them or do what you can. You can't be trying to just get these highlight reel knockouts all the time, because you will mess around and keep your opponent in the game long enough for them to come back and beat you or do enough to edge you out. You know what I'm saying? And don't take no chance. So
yeah,
if Punahele fights the way he's supposed to, and if Roman fight the way he been fighting, then Punahele should win. But I want to make it very clear, there is a world where Roman can definitely win this fight if he shows up.
Because he is 1-2 in the UFC, and the only one win comes against Alessio.
Which is not a bad
it's not a bad win, but it's not a good one either.
Yeah, but I think Alessio was on a little winning streak coming there. He kind of took the little winning streak away from him. Nah, never mind.
Oh, he got TKO by a duel. With a head kick.
Ironically. Yeah, you're right, he did. Okay, and then in the co-main event, we have Dan Ige versus Damon Jackson. And, okay, 48% of people think that Ige will win. 52% of people think Jackson will win. Man, this is interesting because when you look at their records, Dan Ige, he was on a win streak. He was on a nice win streak. And then he ran into Calvin Kadar. No shame in it. Okay, he got back on track with Gavin Tucker. 22-second knockout. Okay, still good. Then he called out Korean Zombie, and Korean Zombie did whatever he wanted to for 5 rounds, and then he backdoored and got an even tougher fight in Josh Emmett and got beat. Then he got another tough fight in Movsar Evloev, and
it's like he keep losing and getting more tougher competition.
It's weird.
Like he's gonna lose this fight and fight Max Holloway next.
It's so strange, man. It's like you fight somebody, then you fight a worse version. Like you got like Chang Song Jun, mix it up on him. Okay. Then you turn around and fight Josh Emmett. Outstruck. Then you fight Mobzar, out wrestle. I'm like, what in the world is going on?
Then Ige is somebody you can't put money on because he sits back and just block. His fight against Josh Emmett, I know Josh is dangerous, but that fight shows you how he fights in the UFC. He kind of just sit back and block.
But Josh so dangerous that
no, but I'm saying he does it in all his fights.
But look at one thing to notice. Look at his record. Look at his loss column. Never been finished.
Ooh.
Never been finished. We go over here to Damon Jackson. Listen, he was in the UFC at one point. Kind of had some ups and downs. It actually wasn't even the worst thing in the world. He lost the fight. Weird. He had some weird stuff going on here, man. I'm not gonna lie. Some majority draws, and then some fights got overturned. So okay, the first 10 in the UFC was weird. He came back. He was getting his butt handed to him by Mirsad Bekti. Remember that fight where I was telling you that Damon Jackson was getting his butt whooped, and in the 3rd round he submitted this dude out of nowhere?
Oh yeah.
That fight was so crazy. But then he took that fight on short notice, ironically. And then he got stopped by Ilia Topuria. No shame in that. He's on a 4-fight win streak right now. Impressive. Now the level of competition that he's fighting, I mean, Dan Ige would beat all those people. You go look at who Dan Ige lost to. Korean Zombie just fought for the belt. Yeah, he looked bad, but I mean, Volkanovski made everybody look bad. Josh Emmett is fighting for the interim belt. Mobs are probably a 1 fight away from fighting for a number 1 contender fight. So the Dan Ige losses are not bad. Like the value in those losses is incredibly high.
I think what it really comes down to is how good Dan Ige's takedown defense is, and unfortunately, it's 51%.
Let me see if they got the stats on this one.
Yeah,
man.
It's not up to par. It's takedown defense.
This gets interesting. 0.35 submission attempts per 15 minutes for Dan Ige. So not even 1 full one versus 2 for Damon Jackson.
I don't think that matters because I think the grappling might cancel out. It's not going to cancel out. I think Damon's going to be able to control him a little bit more, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold him down. He might be able to take him down, but he's not going to be able to stay on top of him.
But man, losses to Korean Zombie, Josh Emmett, and Mobsar is like, bro, it ain't that many people in the world that can beat all 3 of them in a row. So it's like, how much do we weigh this against him? Like, that's what I'm ultimately trying to say.
It's how he lost, too, man. It's not the fact that he lost. Because I know he's not getting it finished, but the way Korean Zombie was just taking him down. Korean Zombie not even a wrestler.
But let me tell you why he's going to win this fight. Because I think he's losing to names first. Does that make sense? Because he's fighting so defensively. It's like, you know how some people, they show up against certain fighters and then other fighters, they completely drop the ball. I don't think he's going to drop the ball against Damon Jackson. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just because he's not Josh Emmett or Mobsar or...
Another thing is, I saw some of Damon Jackson fights. Which fight was that, man? Like, he in the 3rd round, he couldn't get that 1 takedown. He started slowing down. The striking went there.
That was against... It
was like, hold on, like, dude. But I think Damon can do enough.
That was against Dan Argueta.
I think he could do enough in the first 2 rounds to win those rounds. And even if he slowed down in 3rd, because it's not like Dan Ige going to knock him out in 3rd.
Yeah.
Dan not gonna let his hands fly, man. Because originally I was gonna pick Dan Ige because of his opponents he fought against. It seems like he's getting worse and worse, man. He's not letting his hands fly at all. Because when we first got to the UFC, he was letting his hands fly. Now it's like, man, dude, it's almost like he's not confident.
And it seems like these 5-round fights don't benefit him that well either. But this is a 3-round fight.
Mobsar took him down 9 times. Korean Zombie took him down 3 times. Man, he finna be on his back.
But Damon Jackson does have this thing where he do get knocked out. Every few fights, he'll get knocked out of nowhere.
But Dan Ige, he ain't got that in him, man.
Yeah,
Don't look at that 22-second.
You're right.
I think that 22-second knockout did more harm to him than good. Because then he ended up fighting people he didn't deserve to fight.
Yeah, because you beat Gavin Tucker around 22 seconds. And it's like...
But Gavin is tough, though. I like Gavin. But I'm just saying, like...
So, man, what's your ultimate pick?
I'm going to go with... I'm gonna go with Damon on this one.
I'm gonna go with Dan Ige, man, and I like Damon Jackson. It's just the fact, man, you lost to 3 contenders, man. Like,
it's the fact that he lost though. It ain't the fact. It'd be different if they was competitive and they was going back and forth. But I'm looking at the Josh. It's like, dude, his fights, man, is not like competitive at all. Calvin outstruck him 105 to 84. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, they're not even close. I think he has a ceiling. I hate to say it. I think Dan Ige has a ceiling.
It might be the
He
ceiling.
ain't reached it.
Hey, and I'm gonna tell you, if Damon Jackson if he can beat this guy, and especially like maybe with a finish, but I'm just saying if he can beat this guy, Damon Jackson has officially entered the like top 15 territory here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, low key. I don't think nobody would have expected that if that was to happen.
I think Dan Ige is turned to a gatekeeper. If you can beat him, then
almost like the Neil Magny.
Yeah, that's what it is. Because he's hard to finish, but it's just if you can beat him, then you're elite.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna lean more towards Dan Ige, but that's low confidence. This is one of those fights where it's like there's a reason why 48% of people going one way and 52% going the other way. So then in the main event, we have Kelvin Gastelum versus Nassourdine Imavov. According to Tapology, 79% of people believe Imavov will win, and 21% of people believe Kelvin will win. Like, this is the thing. It would be easier to bet on Kelvin if we knew beforehand which Kelvin was going to show up, because there's different versions. You got the Kelvin that showed up against
Michael Bisping.
Oh my goodness. Hold on. We can go down the record. We can go down the record and see. From the beginning, you got he's been in the UFC for a long time at this point. You got the Kelvin that showed up against Jake Ellenberger. Then you got the Kelvin that showed up against Chris Weidman, who was winning, and then he lost out of nowhere after you dropped him. You got the Kelvin that showed up against Michael Bisping. You got the Kelvin that showed up against Ronaldo Souza. You got the one that showed up against Israel. I don't think the one that showed up against Darren was bad, because I still think Kelvin won this fight. I'm going to be real with you. They was trying to give Darren a win because he was finna be on a bad loser streak. He definitely won that fight. And then you turn around and you get submitted. I think this was the beginning of like the end. You get submitted by a heel hook in 1 minute by Jack Hermanson.
I think the beginning was, it started from the Israel fight, because people say there was a war. But if you go and look at it, he got dropped multiple times. And in the 5th round, they could have stopped it.
Yeah, well, technically, he didn't drop Israel, but he wobbled Israel several times. But remember, instead of trying to finish with the hands,
Israel dropped him.
I know, but I'm saying he hurt Israel too. It just, remember, he kept trying to go for takedowns.
Yeah, I understand, but Israel hurt him worse when he was on the ground. Punch, pop, pop,
it
pop.
was bad. He absorbed so much damage.
Yeah, he got knocked down like 2 times in a small span. And then actually, when the round ended, Israel was on top of him punching him.
Yeah, like they could have really stopped the fight then. But then it just got rough. And then it's like he kept fighting tougher and tougher competition, bro. Then you beat Ian Heinisch, and then you get Robert Whitaker. And then after that, you get Jared Cannonier. I'm like, what in the world is happening?
But you remember he took Robert fight on short notice, right? Then somebody pull out. You remember he was scheduled to fight Robert years before that, but it didn't happen. And then Robert was scheduled to fight somebody, and then he took the fight on short notice.
But didn't Jared hurt him multiple times in that fight?
Yeah.
Man,
Jared just played around.
Kelvin, you just don't know which version you're going to get.
I think we do know. I think this is, as of late, we sound like a worse version of him. I don't think he's all the way there mentally. Well, not mentally, but I don't think he's there confidently.
Man, my favorite Kelvin win is against, it had to be Brian Melencon. The one where he pieced him up with that combo, and then he took his back and choked him out. And I was like, man, this is crazy. But we have not seen that Kelvin in so long, man.
I forgot he knocked out Vito Belfort.
Yeah.
It's almost like this fight didn't even happen.
That's what I'm saying. We haven't seen a good Kelvin, a version of him in so long. You forget about all the things he's done. He actually is very accomplished. Really, you go look at his record. He lost a split decision to Tyrone Woodley.
Hey, can I be real with you, man? If this fight happened 4 years ago, well, 5 years ago,
Kelvin,
it wouldn't even be close, man. If you go look at Nassourdine's last fight against Joaquin Buckley, he dropped the ball. He could have won that fight, man. I think Kelvin 4 years ago, he would learn from it, but now mentally, I don't think Kelvin. I'm not gonna say Kelvin's fighting for money, but it's almost like, I think like a lot of fighters, when they start getting older and they be in the UFC for like longer, it's almost like, why am I getting punched in the face and the UFC's making more money than me?
Yeah.
So I think him, and like another example was like,
or just saying he's not making the amount of money. Yeah. Like the return on investment for getting, like how it affects your health and everything, your mental health, your physical. You know, and you getting older. Like, is it even worth it anymore?
Because if you think about it, because that's why Anthony Johnson retired and left the UFC. Because in the interview, he said, "Why am I risking my life and my health?" And then Dana White is not risking his life for his health, or any of these other guys, they're not risking their life. And he wasn't attacking nobody or nothing. He was just saying, like, why am I the one doing that when I'm getting paid less than them or whatever? So I think,
well, I mean, of course, they're going to get paid less because it's not their platform. But it's just saying that it would be more incentive. But I don't know necessarily why Kelvin is fighting. I wish I knew what motivates him. But the reality is, the only way I can see him beating Nassourdine is during the Joaquin Buckley fight. Joaquin started turning up with it, but it was too late. The third round, he started completely turning the fight around. Ooh. And it's like Nassourdine gassed out, man. And then he even looked a little bit gassed even against Edmond. Mm. Even in some of the fights that he won recently, like after the fight, he like rolled over and he was like breathing. And it was kind of like he really put everything into it. And I'm just thinking, okay, now this is a 5-round fight. Kelvin been 5 rounds.
How's Kelvin gonna win though? He's short.
But that's the thing. Kelvin has found ways to beat fighters like this, man. But the thing is, we don't know what version we getting. I gotta go with Nassourdine just because I think Nassourdine gonna fight from the outside, put the hands on him, touch him up, mix it up on him. I'm gonna be real with you. I know Kelvin got the wrestling background, but we ain't seen it lately.
I think Nassourdine, like, he get to do less. I think he can do less and win against Kelvin Gastelum. I think Kelvin has to do more because he's shorter and because like he's a southpaw and he has to land that left hand.
Well, not even that. Just because of the type of fighters they are, we have to look at how Nassourdine can win, and then you can look at several ways he can win. He can win a decision. He might could just pour it on Kelvin and try to get him out of there with some type of TKO, maybe not a one-punch knockout, but a TKO or some type of submission. On the other end, hold on, let me see how many fights Nassourdine has. Nassourdine has only been submitted once, lost 2 decisions. He got 5 KO wins and 4 submission wins. Okay, so he got a mixed ways that he can beat Kelvin, basically.
Hey,
I go look at Kelvin. Even after I look at the wrestling, the knockout, and the submission, like bringing that to the table, I have to bring in the mental aspect for Kelvin. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I have to factor in, okay, if the perfect Kelvin shows up, and in shape, okay, but then mentally, like, is your fight IQ going to be there, or are you going to just find some kind of crazy way to get beat? Like, are you going to drop Nassourdine and then still Nassourdine find some way to come back and beat you? Because I can see that happening. I can see Kelvin doing good and then coming out and then gassing, or coming out and doing some type of mental lapse, man. Because we've seen it against Chris Weidman, we've seen it against Jack Hermanson. It's like you just never. He was doing pretty good against Jared Cannonier, then dropped out.
I think the issue with Kelvin is he's fighting tougher competition now. He's not fighting Uriah Hall no more. He's not fighting Vito Belfort, who's washed up, who's way past his prime.
But you got to realize, at the time, Kelvin was not supposed to beat none of those people. Kelvin wasn't supposed to win the Ultimate Fighter. He really came out of nowhere, man, and became a contender because nobody expected this. He won a lot of fights he wasn't supposed to win on paper. And that's why people was really starting to believe in him, because he was like a dark horse.
But I don't think Kelvin has a style to beat Nassourdine. The way to beat Nassourdine is take him down. I don't even think that Phil Hall's beat him, but that's kind of the blueprint to beat Nassourdine, because Nassourdine is kind of he's a striker, but he doesn't really want to go to the ground. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
He doesn't really, he wants to fight his
He wants the fight to go to the ground on his terms. I've noticed that. Like, if you look at the way he'll finish fighters on the ground, crucifix.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of, when we've seen him lose in the past, he was on the ground, he was on his back, or trying to get up. And it's like, if he can get the fight to the ground on his terms, it's completely different versus...
Yeah. Even Joaquin Buckley, remember at the end of the first round, he took him down. So, yeah, that makes sense. I just don't think Kelvin has a style. And mentally, I don't think Kelvin is what he used to be. You know what I mean? So, but
because, to be real, Kelvin would have to do a complete 180 from what we've been seeing the past few years. If you take away the Iron Heinich win, man, it's been a rough road, man. And I know it's been a lot going on in between that, COVID, injuries, different stuff. But the only way I see Kelvin winning is if it would have to be the perfect Kelvin showing up on the perfect night. And you would almost have to even say Nassourdine would have to not show up as well. There's too many factors into this. I would have to go to Nassourdine, man.
Ooh, I forgot this is a 5-round fight. Nassourdine normally gasses out, in the second round?
That's my only concern, man.
I don't think Kelvin going to capitalize. He's going to do less than the 4th and 5th round.
A Kelvin that I see that's learning and reading and being aware of what's going on. If we was to say, let's say if this was Jared Cannonier, somebody who can fight for 5 rounds, or Sean Strickland or somebody, I'm going to be real with you. Even if we say, Brad Tavares wouldn't do enough. But if we just take a regular fighter, man, and put him in there for like 5 rounds, let's say Chris Curtis, I know that over time they can make adjustments for 5 rounds. But Kelvin, let's say if Nassourdine gasses, more than likely he will gas because he's pouring it on Kelvin. But can Kelvin even survive that? Can Kelvin even survive that?
Well, Kelvin do make adjustments in his fight. If he can't land left hand, he goes for takedowns that he doesn't get, and he shoots from across the cage and he gets stuffed badly. That's the only adjustment he makes.
Hey, his last, and we talking about cardio, the last time he got submitted was in the 3rd round of the Chris Weidman fight. And we talking about cardio, and Kelvin been losing 5-round decisions.
I think that Kelvin has a chance. The one that fought against Chris Weidman. Because he was piecing Chris Weidman. You remember he dropped him?
That was 6 years ago.
I know.
I just brought that up because that was the last submission. I know it's like, because dude, you got to realize now, I see what you're saying. You're not fighting a declining Jake Ellenberger. You're not fighting a declining Johnny Hendricks. You're not fighting a declining Tim Kennedy, a declining Michael Bisping, a declining Ronaldo Souza.
I think his issue is the same issue Darren Till has. Ironically, they actually fought each other. But their issue is they're both too small for middleweight and too big for welterweight.
Yeah, and it's hard to make weight.
Which is probably going to be like a weight class in between those. But if you think about it, Kelvin can't beat these guys are just too big. Nassourdine's 6'3". These guys, imagine him versus Alex. Imagine him versus who else tall and big? Even like Dricus.
But it's funny though because up until Alex, the toughest fight Israel ever had was against Kelvin. I mean, Yoel didn't have a difficult fight with him. Paulo didn't. Israel beat everybody easily.
Yeah, but that was after he knocked out Michael Bisping too. Kelvin, fresh off a Michael Bisping knockout.
No, he had fought Ronaldo.
Yeah, but I'm saying that was still in the back of people's head. You remember when they fought? It was like, oh yeah, Kelvin has his 1-punch knockout power. So I think Israel was too conservative that fight.
But the UFC must believe in him. They must think that he's gonna take Nassourdine shine right now.
Why they keep giving him headlines, man? Like they keep giving him main events.
I'm baffled. And they know he needs these 3 rounds. I think what will benefit him is 3-round fights. A 3-round fight against Nassourdine, Nassourdine might do whatever he wants to because now he ain't got to worry about the cardio. The only deciding factor in this, well, for Nassourdine's side is just the cardio because he do get tired. But Kelvin, man, everything have to line up, and I just don't know if it will, and I just can't bet on that. So I'm going to go with mid-level confidence, Nassourdine. What's your pick?
Low level Nassourdine.
Yeah.